Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why Bill Belichick's reputation just took another hit and why it's on LeBron James to turn the new-look Cavs around. Speak for Yourself starts now. Now, next. Man, we got a big guest in here today sitting in Colin's chair. All right, hello and welcome. Cowherd is out. So I'm joined now by Fox NFL insider and superstar Jay Glazer, former Pro Bowler TJ Houshmandzadeh, and Fox Sports Radio host Doug Gottlieb. All right, let's start in Foxborough, where the mystery around Bill Belichick's decision to bench Malcolm Butler in the Super Bowl took a surprising turn this week. While people have been calling for Belichick to explain himself to fans, he might want to start by explaining himself to Robert Kraft, the team's owner. As Albert Breer reports, that is just how deep a secret the benching of Malcolm Butler was. The owner of the team didn't know. And so goes another weird chapter in perhaps the weirdest season, the weirdest week of the Brady-Belichick dynasty. And listen, I'm going to throw a little curveball here. Our producer gave me a great thought this morning. Malcolm Butler, I think a lot of people believe, is at the foundation of the breakup in Seattle in terms of that dynasty. He does the interception, and there's a lot of people who feel like Seattle's never gotten over it. Never gotten over it, not giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch. The New England Patriots have a Malcolm Butler situation that I think will leave a stench in that locker room for a long time, and I think this is a ding on Bill Belichick's reputation. I think a lot of people have been accepting of him being a bully and making all the decisions. I think this decision here among Robert Kraft, among Tom Brady, among defensive players all throughout the league, I think there's going to be a price to pay for this decision.
I don't think there will be at all because there's been way bigger moves that Bill's made. He doesn't care. Bill does what he does, and it's won them an awful lot of rings. It's got them 2 more Super Bowls than everybody else. And in the past also, look, when they traded Randy Moss, nobody there knew, including Randy. And there was a Monday Night Football game. I think they were playing the Dolphins. He didn't really play in that game. Everybody was like, why is he not in there? They already had that deal worked out with the Minnesota Vikings to trade him. When Bill Belichick wants to do something there, he doesn't answer to anybody. And quite frankly, he doesn't really need to because his way has worked. I know it's the Patriots, so you got to make it a conspiracy thing all the way around with the Seahawks and whatnot.
Super Bowl, they lost, though.
Let me tell you something. It wasn't just that one player. That entire defense, man, they were struggling out there. I don't know if he would have made a huge difference, but also the body of work, you can't question what Bill's done. You just can't question him.
Pete Carroll's got a great body of work.
Not like Bill.
The problem I have is exactly what he's talking about. Bill Belichick gets way too many passes. Like, he's won this, he's won that. He needs to be held accountable
Wait,
for
he's
this.
won 5 of them.
How many has he won without Brady?
He's won 5
When he can
of
win
them,
one
though.
without Tom Brady, then come talk to me. To me, this is a selfish move for the aspect of you hurt the whole team. You're proving a point, but you hurt the whole team. You cost yourself a Super Bowl because of your ego. When Chandler Jones sat in the parking lot shirtless at the Foxborough Police Department, did he play? Yeah, he played. Malcolm Butler did not do anything to warrant. I don't know what he did.
Right, that's the thing.
But then they got rid of Chandler Jones, didn't they?
But,
at the end of the season.
But Chandler Jones still played in the game that week.
Hold up. You're not wrong that he hurt the whole team. But you and I have been on enough teams, Jason has as well, right? You're on a team and you do something wrong and everybody runs because of you. This is what Bill Belichick didn't hurt his reputation. He cemented his reputation. This is who he is. He doesn't play.
Robert Kraft doesn't even know why.
Robert Kraft doesn't have any say in the football
He
side.
owns the team.
But he doesn't have it. That's
They're
the whole
playing in the Super Bowl, and they give up 41 points. A guy that's played 98% of your snaps all year doesn't play, and you're telling me he doesn't know Brady, Kraft, the guys in that locker room, an explanation?
There's 2 different things here. One is whether or not we agree with the move, and obviously we don't agree with the move. But the other one is whether or not this has hurt Bill Belichick's reputation and his foundation of success over the years, and that answer is no. So that is not.
I don't think it's hurt his reputation.
With players around the league.
People look at Bill Belichick like they're scared of him. They're scared
right.
of him.
And that's why I'm saying
And
this cements it. This is not new, though, Jason. This is who he is. Look, that defense, if you want to say they lost because of the arrogance of the Patriots and they didn't have any playmakers on defense, I'm going to agree with you, okay? But the reason that they could get to the Super Bowl without any playmakers on defense is because everybody is taught to do their job and to you don't go freelancing, okay? Junior Seau was the ultimate freelancer. He comes to New England and he figures out not to freelance. And this cements him as no one is bigger than the team. And if you don't believe me, in the biggest game of the year, I will sit you, and that will help us win forever.
That's the biggest problem. You do this in the Super Bowl. You cannot bench your best defensive player. Nick Foles was going up and down the field on them.
Not their best, but they're one of their best.
They
DBs.
could not stop him in the air.
Yeah, let's not make him out to be Deion Sanders now, right? Like, good player.
I mean,
a great find for them.
In their defensive backfield, he's better than Stephen Gilmore.
No.
Yes, he is.
He's not
Yes,
better than
yes, he
Stephon
is.
Gilmore.
He's not?
This year?
Not this year. But anyway, go ahead.
If you go through the course of the year, they both had their ups and downs. Malcolm Butler single-handedly pretty much won a Super Bowl against Seattle.
Yeah,
He
but
jump stepped. He single-handedly.
One play does not. He had to do something, right? Like he had to do something that pushed Bill's buttons to the point where in a Super Bowl he ain't gonna play.
But I think one thing they can take from this is Bill has always gone about it like our system is going to get us through this.
Correct.
That's why he gets rid of all these great defensive players over the years. And even this offseason, letting Chris Long go, making sure Ninkovich, I want to make sure Ninkovich is back. Over the years, is like, hey, Chandler Jones, we're not going to be able to keep him. Let's get rid of him.
Jamie Collins, they traded away
Jamie Collins
last year.
a couple years ago. Richard Seymour is the world, right?
But he's always let all these guys go.
He's always done that at his system. And I think this year, I think it caught up to him. A couple of those guys, you want to hold on to it. At one point, you got to say, we need some playmakers over there. It can't just be about only the system and Tom.
But my issue is just when and where. In the Super Bowl, you can let Jamie Collins go week 3 or whenever you did or move him on.
Right.
You can do all these in the offseason. But again, they got to Super Bowl Sunday right before kickoff. You're starting, and this guy ain't playing.
We don't agree with the move. We're all saying that we don't agree with the move.
And I think
he's still
he's still the greatest coach of all time.
No denying
he's
that.
Right. No one's gonna. But I'm saying the conversation now about Bill Belichick, the criticism has been legalized now, and I think it's not just going to be kooks. It's going to be football people. That's why I think, again, Tony Dungy didn't make comments about the Malcolm Butler decision, but he was critical of this Josh McDaniels coming back to New England the way he did, and this is inexcusable. And again, that's the start of a momentum that I see of football people are going to be now more comfortable second-guessing and questioning Bill Belichick.
I don't know if I agree with that. I really don't, because this is, again, like you said, this is like it's not even a tip of the iceberg. It's just one little snowflake there of a storm that he has cast for 17 years.
The Super Bowl's not a snowflake.
Here's what's crazy about it. Okay, they miss a field goal, they miss an extra point, okay? And they don't miss those field goals, they don't miss those extra points. They don't punt. And I understand we're talking about defense and I'm talking about offensive plays. If you're in New England, in your mind, you're sitting there going like, they got home one time. That Philadelphia Eagles defensive front is as nasty as there is in football, and they only got home one time. That doesn't happen. They make the field goal, they make the extra point, they win a seventh Super Bowl. They've convinced themselves that their way is the right way, and if you're not drinking that Kool-Aid, you don't belong in New England.
We've all been around sports, and this is just my rule of thumb. Players win games, coaches lose them. Players, you can have the best scheme. If the players don't execute, you're going to lose the game. Players win the game, and the coaches lose them. That's just the bottom line. In the Super Bowl, you have to have him in the game. I don't care what he did. If you don't send him home during the week, he needs to play.
So the coach is the reason you guys always lost in Cincinnati in the playoffs? Is that the...
I mean, that's just
that's a fact.
That's just a rule of thumb.
Because we haven't heard from Jay on this, I want to get to this a little bit. Tom Brady, we all know, has liked and commented on Malcolm Butler's social media posts, basically seemed to me to be giving him some support, which leads or furthers my belief that there's a little bit of a rift between Brady and Belichick. Do you buy that there is a rift?
So I said this morning with him on radio today that I want to sign up for the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick marriage counseling classes. Because for 17 years, we haven't heard a thing from these guys. What relationship have we ever seen? I mean, marriages, football teams, sports teams, where you don't hear a peep. I looked at it the other way. I looked at it saying, I can't believe all this time. It took this long for anything to come out. With two guys with huge egos, two guys who, both those guys, see here, we all know how hard the Peyton Mannings and Breezes and those guys work because they let us know. We don't hear of Brady's sickness, which he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop. He doesn't stop. He is constantly working. He outworks the world. Those two guys, to have that kind of personality all this time for nothing to come out, not a complaint, that's the amazing part of this thing. Not that there's a rift right now.
So what he's saying is, yeah, there's a rift.
Yeah,
they don't. But like
it's a relationship.
Look, I've been married 17 years. Okay, we got rifts over stuff, but we're still married. We're not getting divorced.
No, but listen, there are people that have been married for 50 years that get a divorce in year 51. And so
I was married for 10 months, so I can't really talk about this. That's what I'm saying. I need their help. I'm terrible at it. I need their help.
But that's what the Garoppolo trade did. The Garoppolo trade said, like, hey, look, you ain't getting divorced this year, right? It's just not. You have the newer, younger, maybe even better version. Doesn't matter. You guys are staying together through thick and through thin.
The rift could have possibly started when he stopped allowing Alex Guerrero access, the type of access that he had. You think about it. Brady threw for 500 yards in the Super Bowl. They lose, most yards ever. 33 points scored, most points scored by a team that ever lost Super Bowl. Bill Belichick again. Tom Brady's bitter about that. He won't come out and say it, but he's going to go home and talk to his friends and his family.
He's been bitter
about
it's a relationship.
He's bitter about you cost me a Super Bowl, and then on top of that, my trainer, we seen Tom versus Tom. He has to work out in the suite. He can't even go to the office anymore. Like, Tom is bitter about that, and to his personal close friends, he's going to express that. Publicly, he's not going to say anything, but he's pissed off with Belichick.
You don't got to love each other. You just got to work better together, and they do. And that's the thing. You don't have to have this loving relationship as long as you make each other better, and they do.
Well, I think that works when there's not equality in the relationship, when there's more need in terms of like, man, without him, I'm financially doomed. Or without her, I'll never get laid again. I think when there's no equality, that's when I think people, but when there's equality like there is, I think, between Brady and Belichick, that's when the divorce papers start and the relationship goes really sour. And so, like, to me, what I've been arguing, my whole narrative here is just like people are arguing the Seattle Seahawks couldn't get over the fact they didn't give the ball to Marshawn Lynch, and that has stirred a mess in their locker room. I think this here, Malcolm Butler, has stirred a mess in that locker room that not just Brady, but a lot of guys in that locker room were like, man, Belichick.
Yeah, I think you definitely, I mean, would you want to spend 17 years with that right there? No, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it would get on you. And he does. And there's guys there, look, there have been guys who've been trying to get out. Like, they got rid of Jamie Collins. He's like, he was doing what he had to. There's been guys who are like, we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to deal with, all of the control that Belichick has and the Patriots way. Guys used to love to make sure they got in there and learned the Patriots way. And now it's not, athletes are different. Millennial athletes are completely different than they were in the last.
He's the ultimate professional bully.
But there's also the actions, not words, right? When you get in an argument with your significant other, you can say all you want, but it's what you do, right? And last year, what did he do? He went out and traded for Brandon Cooks. He got him Rex Burkhead. He's fixed that offensive line, and now he's secured Josh McDaniels so that he always has his best friend, offensive coordinator, still there. So I'm not denying that some of the stuff becoming public, the possibility Rob Gronkowski appears to have one foot into retirement. I think that's real, but I don't think that means a divorce is imminent. I think it means that the relationship is fractured, but it comes down to the actions in the offseason, not the words of the end of the Super Bowl.
Hello, everybody. Jason McIntyre here. Thank you for listening to the Speak for Yourself podcast. But I wanted to tell you about another podcast at Fox Sports that we are really excited about, and that's Alexi Lalas's State of the Union podcast. That's right, U.S. soccer legend Alexi Lalas will be partnering up with Fox soccer guru and researcher extraordinaire David Mosse to review the top storylines in soccer across the globe. Each week, Alexi will give his State of the Union on American soccer, as it rebuilds for the future. So subscribe right now and listen to the first episode for free on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Now back to the show.
All right, welcome back. Jay Glazer, TJ Houshmandzadeh, and Doug Gottlieb are back. Let's move to Seattle, where Richard Sherman says he fully expects to be back with the Seahawks this season, even though the team spent much of last offseason trying to trade him. The once dominant corner is about to turn 30, is recovering from a torn Achilles, and has actually decided to act as his own agent as he enters the final years of his contract. I get why Richard Sherman wants to return. He's coming off an injury. He wasn't as dominant a player when he was healthy last year. Richard Sherman's been humbled by the game of football. It humbles everybody except for Tom Brady at some point. And so I get why he wants to return, but if I'm Seattle, I don't know if I want a humbled Richard Sherman. It would be like Deion Sanders being a humble football. I don't think it can be done. Part of Richard Sherman has always been his swagger. And so it's great that he wants to come back to Seattle, but if I'm Seattle, I don't want Richard Sherman.
I think there's a lot of issues over there, like the Legion of Boom right now. You saw what Earl Thomas was saying at the end of the year, how he wanted out. Bobby Wagner is the guy in there, and you've had two other guys who were Cam Chancellor, he was the guy, but he's dealing with the neck. Cliff Averill, he's dealing with the neck. So they're going to have to completely rebuild that defense. And the other side of the ball, they got to get the quarterback to throw the ball within like 3 seconds, not 24 seconds. It's like, it doesn't matter who you bring in the offensive line. I know they got to help him out with the running back, but they got to get Russell to he's been running for his life. I think some of that, there's a lot that contributes to that, but as their defense, as they rebuild it, they are going to need even more out of the offensive side of the ball, and they're going to kind of have to reshuffle how they go about things there.
He called the quarterback basically a phony, right? And in the cornerback who wins.
Who called him a phony?
Richard Sherman.
Oh, I thought you meant me right here. I was
no. I mean,
hey, hold on a sec here.
No. Richard Sherman has basically called his quarterback a phony, and in the hierarchy of a locker room, we all know this. The quarterback always wins, and he's coming off an injury. Now he's going to rep himself. Yeah, why don't you defend yourself in a murder trial, too? That just sounds like a bad idea. I think he knows that time is up, but he's just trying to do image rehab. No, I want to go back. I want to, I want this to be 2.0. But I think the fact that they floated his name we talked about divorces earlier, right? Once you call the divorce lawyer, that thing is over. Once you start floating Richard Sherman's name out there as potential trade bait, I think this thing was done. Then he tore his Achilles tendon. He won't be wearing a Seahawks uniform this year.
So last year they tried to trade him. They couldn't get what they wanted, so they didn't trade him. The problem for Richard Sherman is this. You got $11 million base salary. You're coming off an Achilles injury. You're 30 years old. They're not going to pay him that, and it sucks for him. But on the bright side, if I'm Seattle, I can't get rid of Richard Sherman if I don't have anyone to replace him. They're just not 6 feet corners that can lock your best receiver down growing on a tree. They're not out there. And so they're going to have to find a medium to where they can come to a conclusion where it works for both parties. But it's going to be tough for him because of the fact that his base salary is so high and you're coming off an injury at your age.
But my issue would be, because what you're basically saying is Richard Sherman's going to have to come down on salary. He's going to have to restructure his deal, make it more team-friendly. And again, that's not the Richard Sherman I want. That's a smart Richard Sherman. When you represent yourself, you got to listen to them dog you now. They're going to talk to you like a dog. They're going to tell you everything that you don't do well, and you take that instead of them telling your agent, and your agent don't even tell you that.
Yeah, but that doesn't go – how does that go over?
I mean, if you're going to represent yourself, you got to take it like a man. You got to wear it.
Yeah, but everybody says they want feedback, but they don't actually want feedback, right? They want somebody telling them they're awesome. You need that go-between. You need somebody to go like, you're 30, you got beat here, you were a problem here, you call it our offensive coordinator, you heard our offense, you heard everything. Like, everybody says, yeah, I can hear that, I can do it, until it's actually done, then it really hurts.
You know what else, though? Richard Sherman's not going to change as far as his competitiveness and his outspoken. That's who he is. That's the competitor in him. I don't think that ever goes away.
If he goes through the process we're talking about of representing himself and gets in a room and they tell him what they really think and why we want to pay you $4 million, and he's thinking that's crazy.
And you know what that's going to do?
That's going to strip some of that swagger from him.
He's going to get on the field, and it's going to piss him off.
Yeah, but he'll get on the field for somebody else, because somebody else, he'll get cut, and somebody else will tell you, they're crazy. We love you. They're nuts. We love you. And so he'll go play for the same money for somebody else out of pride, out of ego. That same pride, that ego that made him great is the same thing that'll drive him out of town.
It'll be interesting, too, because he actually saw a teammate do this. Russell Okung, he did this. He represented himself and ended up getting himself a couple of good deals here. But, I think, Richard, if you're going to represent yourself, you have to go in with certain expectations for your client, which is yourself. And, again, now it's like, do I want to get as much money as I can, or do I want to make a smart football decision? And that, we don't know what Richard's going to think. He may want to say, you know what, I've had it, I want out, I'm going to force my hand. Or he may say, I want to see this thing through, I'll take less money.
He wants to play in Seattle. He'll end up playing in Cincinnati. That's my
Cincinnati.
All right, welcome back. Doug Gottlieb is back, and we're joined now by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard and the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to Cleveland, where the Cavaliers were busy yesterday with a flurry of moves before the trade deadline that completely remade their roster and maybe their culture too, as GM Koby Altman explained, quote, I think we're going to be energetic and we're just going to be fun again and fun to watch and fun to be around. And I think in large part, we address the culture of the team and the building. I think we're going to get a rejuvenated LeBron James, and that's the key. LeBron also addressed the trades and said he'll take the lead getting his new teammates on the same page.
It's my job to get these guys integrated as fast as possible. I know the coaching staff at Tilo is going to do it as well, but it's my job to get these guys on the same page with us, what we want to accomplish, what we want to do. So I look forward to getting them here. Front office made, changes that they felt that best fit this franchise, and it's time to go to work. So it is what it is.
Last one, Joe.
It's not like, do we have enough time? This is the time that we have, so let's make the most of it.
Sounds good, but I'm not buying it. The key to fixing the culture, to me, is LeBron James doing what Dwayne Wade and Pat Riley have done, put their differences aside, and are working together and are happy about a reunion. Again, what I don't think LeBron understands, as long as he carries this bitterness around about Dan Gilbert in the front office, everybody else is going to feed off of that. If he's not happy, if he doesn't believe in Gilbert and the front office and the organization, that filters out to the rest of the guys on the team. And so with this new group, they could fall into the same trap as the old group. If LeBron's not happy, no one's going to be happy. And so I hear him talking about getting everybody on the same page and getting them acclimated as soon as possible. To me, that starts with put your differences aside with Dan Gilbert, make peace there, then you have a foundation to build on.
I just love that he's Teflon LeBron, right? Like, we have a problem with our culture. You saw fun in that quote several times, meaning they weren't having fun. And look, in any basketball team, you are what your best player is, right? If your best player is tough, you got a tough team. And if your best player is if it's the grudge with Dan Gilbert, or if it's the fact that he doesn't like how everybody's covering what he's going to do next year, whatever it was, he's as responsible for the bad culture in the team as anybody who they sent elsewhere. Now, they're taking the burden off him, but just like he said there, the burden is just as much on him to not just integrate them, but have fun when you go to work. I think in the immediate future, it'll be more enjoyable. The question is when they hit adversity. When they hit adversity this year, those things fractured apart. That's on LeBron James. This group coming back together will also be on LeBron James.
LeBron's not blameless. I mean, if we know from his track record, there'll be drama. Maybe 3 weeks from now, maybe, before the playoffs start, there'll be some drama. But look, that bitterness you talked about, it's been there since he got back to Cleveland. And they've reached 3 finals and won 1. So as far as them winning the East, getting to the finals, I don't think his relationship with Dan Gilbert is going to ruin that. A lot of LeBron's issues with Gilbert, I mean, look, there'll never be boys. We know that. But a lot of his issues with Gilbert were from, are you going to do something to improve this team? He did it. Gilbert improved the team. And so I think some of that will be alleviated just because LeBron likes the moves they made.
My thing on the culture here, it felt like a high school cafeteria, did it not? You got Jay Crowder and Isaiah Thomas in one corner, Derrick Rose doing his own thing, Tristan Thompson and JR with the bad contracts, and LeBron's like looking around at a fragmented team. And I do believe, you know, Rodney Hood comes in. Okay, this guy, are you going to make your three-pointers? You want to be my late career Ray Allen or my Mike Miller? Just go in the corner, make your shots. LeBron demands greatness, right? We know that. George Hill, 45% from three. Are you going to make your shots? Because Isaiah Thomas, he wasn't making any shots. Okay, everybody do your job. Jordan Clarkson, you're new here. You're new to the culture. Accept your role coming off the bench. And I do believe it's going to work. I think this culture is fixed. I know you guys want to hammer LeBron, but if everybody buys into what LeBron says, because he's the boss.
On that. Fixed. Do you think
I
instantaneous?
I mean, it's not going to be like that. You know, it's going to take a couple games, but overall, you're not going to have Isaiah pouting and popping off to the media. Jordan Clarkson.
The question is it too bad to stop them from getting to the finals? You think the culture, because look, Michael Jordan didn't get along with Jerry Krause.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson didn't like Jerry Krause. I mean, the culture that Isaiah Thomas fighting with Bill Laimbeer, you know, like stuff happens. Do you think it's so bad that it will keep them from winning the East? That's really the question.
I got to see it first. I want to see these guys. I think they play tonight, right?
And they play the Celtics on Sunday.
Yeah, they should have their new players.
And so I want to see it first because, again, I'm not sure what George Hill they're getting. From what I understand, George Hill spent all year just basically shooting threes, and that's all he was really concerned about. And so I want to see what they're getting. Is this going to be an improved defensive team? Certainly, I think all these guys that they brought in, hey, they get to play with one of the all-time greats who can take it. So they should be excited. But again, I think that energy we saw from LeBron, that joy we saw from LeBron in his last game, I need to see that more often. And the reason why I don't think we see it as often is because, again, he spends too much time mad at Dan Gilbert. And again, nobody is going to treat him better than Dan Gilbert and the Cavs.
It's not just that, though, but there's also he's the lead singer and he's gotten rid of most of his bandmates, right? But you still got the J.R. Smith problem, right? Can J.R. come off the bench? You got the Tristan problem, right? Tristan's overpaid. Can he come off the bench? Can you play him?
But those things aren't going to change, Doc.
I know. So we're talking, like, first you got to change the culture, and are they actually good enough? Who else is going to create a shot? Right? Even the other.
I like Jordan Clarkson a lot more than a lot of people. I think he can come off the bench and pump in 20 a game like a Jamal Crawford. He's done it with the Lakers. Do you know how happy?
They were the worst team in the league.
Yeah. Do you know how happy Jordan, Mr. Clarkson and Nance are going to be going from the Lakers to now LeBron?
He's fine off the bench.
Off the bench, he's fine.
Exactly. That's what they need.
Right, great. Okay, you still had the problem of who's going to get you a shot outside of LeBron. He's got to have somebody get him a shot. And then there's the culture. This is a problem on two fronts. They weren't good enough and they had bad culture. Now their culture is going to change.
Here's why I think you're wrong, though. And again, I know it's much harder to be that LeBron we just saw with the triple-double and 35 points. But we have seen that LeBron before in an earlier age. And again, and when you have that LeBron, you don't need other people to get their shots.
True.
He creates so much for everybody else. Hell, you could get a shot and you might.
You didn't have his first iteration in Cleveland. You didn't have another shot creator. Now, did they win it? No.
10 years ago.
It's 10. Look, he still is in the East. He's still enough. You got Kevin Love, another perennial All-Star who'll be back.
Man,
you don't.
Kevin Love.
He's not a better.
Who does Boston have other than Kyrie?
I don't know, but Boston seems to keep winning basketball games.
They're 18-12, a 49-win pace over the last 2 months. They're not world beaters.
Oh, okay, so I just, to be fair, okay, I'm not saying LeBron's not great, okay? But the idea is every time he's super elite LeBron James, with the exception of you go back 10 years ago and he went 11 years ago and they went to the finals in the East. He's always had another guy who could take over the game for him, where he could sit. Like he's going to wear him out, and they won't have Kevin Love back to the last 2 weeks of the season. Like I think everybody just thinks, boom, done, new players, okay, all good. Like
well, it's better. Well, and it's better.
It feels,
They're going to be better.
It feels
on
better.
paper, it's certainly better, and in the
locker
room.
On paper, actually, you would think Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose, Isaiah Thomas.
No, those guys
better.
can't shoot.
But if you
they
look, if you knew,
Rodney Hood's not some great shooter.
He's shooting 38% from three this year, best of his career.
They were tired of him in Utah.
Hood is streaky, but. You look at, I mean, you knew Wade, Rose, IT. They're the same player at this point.
It's different levels of washed up, not as good, need the ball, and not accepting of action.
I'm just sorry. There's never been a better table setter than LeBron James.
I agree.
And if he wants to, he can dial back the clock over the rest of this season, and certainly in the playoffs, that he can set a good enough table in this Eastern Conference to
We're not
cause
talking
a
about
problem.
Golden State.
Yeah, no,
they would need another great player.
All right, welcome back. Chris Broussard, Doug Gottlieb, and Jason McIntyre back Let's move to Isaiah Thomas, who was just traded to the Lakers yesterday, but is already embroiled in some drama. According to Rachel Nichols, Thomas's agent said yesterday that IT might seek a buyout if he doesn't get to start. He then backtracked and told USA Today that Thomas was, quote, ecstatic about being a Laker after meeting with Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka. This is not, I don't see how this works for IT. As we talked about yesterday, Chris, he thought his stomach was set for this max contract, and now I don't see a path to a max contract. When Lonzo Ball gets back, he really doesn't make sense. How do you play those two together? I think the ship has sailed on Isaiah Thomas in a lot of ways because he's not even young, really. Yeah, so I feel bad for Isaiah Thomas, but I don't see this going well in Los Angeles.
Probably not, but the Lakers haven't had a backup point guard all year. And while everybody thinks like backup point guard is don't call me a backup point guard, don't call me, there's plenty of scorers off the bench. We just talked about Jordan Clarkson. Who's Isaiah Thomas's idol? Jamal Crawford, right? That's the guy in Seattle that everybody looks to, and that's the role that he's going to have to embrace. The mistake here is, what is his agent doing texting media outlets like making statements? That's the dumbest thing. Here's a guy whose reputation has plummeted. He played 15 games. They couldn't wait to get rid of him. Couldn't wait to get rid of him. All you want to do is, hey, we're happy to be here. I'm in LA. I'll do whatever it takes to help the Lakers try and get to the playoffs. I want to be a part of their future as much as possible. That's it. If there's a conversation to be had, should be had in private about how much you want to play.
The agent also had his mouth set on a max contract.
True. He gets paid too. You're right. If Isaiah would go there, be the backup, be the sixth man, give him 15 to 18 points a night, keep your mouth shut, it'd be great. And maybe he gets some kind of decent contract next year. The problem now is Isaiah Thomas no longer thinks he's the guy that was in Phoenix, the guy that was in Sacramento that did come off the bench and play well. Right. He thinks he's in the atmosphere with LeBron and Russell Westbrook and James Harden and the other four guys that were in the top 5 MVP voting. And, of course, he's trying to get paid. So he's going to go in there. He's probably going to wreck chemistry. You thought Clarkson was gunning? I mean, Isaiah's thinking, I got to show my stuff. So it's unfortunate. It's not
Chris, I'm going to be positive. You were very negative on Isaiah. Failure, as we know, is the motivation for growth. This is his 5th team in 7 years, okay? At some point, he's got to look himself in the mirror and say, damn, Magic Johnson asked me to jump. I'm going to say, how high, Magic? What do you want me to do? Lonzo Ball says, hey, you know I'm the future point guard here. Isaiah, know your role. Fit in. Yes, sir. I'm gonna listen.
You think he's gonna listen to a 20-year-old rookie?
Doug,
yes,
sorry, Chris. He has no choice whatsoever. This is.
I agree, but he ain't. The dude
LeBron just kicked
30
you to the
points
curb
a game last year.
15 games. You got booted out of Cleveland.
No, listen. We're all talking about reality, okay? But athletes don't live in a reality. They just don't. Okay? You can't be 5'8", 5'9", and make it in the NBA and average 30 a game in the NBA. If you think of reality, what should be possible, it's not. So I hear you, okay, but he doesn't hear you.
Come on, Doug, get positive.
Now, look, if there's a guy it could work with, Luke is that guy he could work with. Luke is unbelievable with guys.
How does it work, though? How in terms of you get to the 4th quarter, and I think they may lean towards playing Isaiah Thomas.
Oh, they will.
And then you've activated LeVar Ball into the situation.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Lonzo's sitting on the bench while LeVar's...
Well, first you talk to the passport agency because there happens to be a direct correlation between the Lakers playing good basketball and LeVar Ball being in Lithuania. So you talk to me like,
Lonzo being...
If Magic's ever going to make a call, don't call anybody but call the passport agency like, the visa's, it's extended, he's got to stay there. Second thing is, like, look, just like any other remember, now he's going to be going against backups. Okay, going against backups in the spread court, he can take over Jordan Clarkson's role. Look, it's going to be but this is what it's like to coach in the NBA. This is big boy basketball. You have to manage egos. He's not dealing with reality. He's not a 30-a-game guy. He will be gunning for a new contract. I don't think it works long-term.
Let me add one thing,
for 25 games,
if the Lakers whiff on Paul George and LeBron and they punt to 2019, they're going to have money. This past year, they gave KCP $18 million for 1 year. They gave Brook Lopez a lot of money for 1 year. Maybe they say, hey,
No,
Isaiah.
they don't.
we-
No, they don't. No, they don't.
There is a
There's
chance.
No
They're
way.
going to need people.
What happens to Lonzo then?
They're keeping Lonzo. He's the starting
Then
point
you
guard.
don't need Isaiah.
You're going to need
He
people.
might do
You
it
need
for 20
bodies.
games.
There's
other bodies.
plenty of
Okay,
other
we'll
bodies.
see.
They'll have more big bodies.
Exactly.
Because
A one-year contract is not out of the
remember,
realm of
they-
possibility.
They did the KCP thing because he's rep by
Yes,
Rich Paul.
exactly. Well,
They
Isaiah
did this because they wanted
This is the best
Isaiah
theory right
out
here.
of Cleveland.
to help Rich
To
Paul,
help
to
him,
help
yes,
LeBron
exactly,
James.
to help
They
someone.
don't,
That's
the
the
last
best
thing
theory
they need
you've
is
ever
Isaiah
had.
Thomas. Even if Isaiah goes there and averages 30, does that help the Lakers at all?
He's a backup
They don't
player.
need that.
Here's the
Gotta
other problem is that there is the market is not good for any free agent.
No.
All these guys. Lou Williams signed for $8 million a year.
To a guy the Lakers have had their eye on for a while, Paul George, whose Thunder team got beaten in LA last night. Even still, there's been growing speculation that George will re-sign with OKC this offseason. But earlier this week, the LA native didn't exactly close the door on going to play for his hometown Lakers, saying, quote, I've been really happy in OKC. It's a great organization to be a part of. But again, you know, I don't want people looking at this and saying like, hey, because he said it's happiness at the end of the day, that he's definitely re-signing. I don't know if whether I'm going to LA or what I'm going to do this offseason. Yeah, the flip-flop has already begun. And I don't blame him. It was, what, 75 degrees out here yesterday. The sun was shining. He's a California kid. And you get in that Staples Center and you look, man, Shaq played here, Kobe played here.
for you.
Everybody, they're chanting your name. And he's already backpedaling. And Russell Westbrook, and that marriage could end very quickly.
He's coming, dude. I'm still fairly confident he's coming. And because remember when he grew up in Los Angeles and he wasn't heavily recruited, and now all of a sudden he is being. When you're Dallas, you've never been recruited in your life, and the Lakers and Magic, and I'm sure Kobe Bryant is heavily recruiting you, and you luck up and you're in Staples, and they have those illuminated jerseys, and you're like, damn, that could be me. And you look at all those titles. Right? When you go to Oklahoma City, they don't have all those things. Yeah. They just
Got
don't.
Nice Ponderosa.
Look, I love Oklahoma. Okay,
That's almost literal.
That's my second home. I
Yeah.
do, but you can't compare the two. And the idea that Magic and Kobe and Shaq and Paul George, that's a powerful, powerful statement. Right now, yeah, maybe you make the decision. But at the end of the season, unless they win a championship, I can't see him staying.
The thing that's most telling to me is, as you said, he's backtracking already. Because I've said it. I don't know if he's seen us or what, but he was saying it'd be stupid to leave if we're headed in the right direction. Russ has made this just that much easier to come out and stay. Now, I don't want people to read into this. Look, and as good as they could be in OKC, which is what, maybe Western Conference Finals next year, probably at best. I don't think they can win the West. If LeBron and Paul go to LA, they can be better than this OKC team. So I think he's the key to LeBron, whether LeBron goes there.
I've never wavered. I've all along thought Paul George was going to the Lakers. I went to the game last night, and I was excited. No Westbrook,
Did you
no
wear
Melo.
Did you wear your jersey
I did not
again?
wear the jersey last night.
wanna make sure.
So, yes, I did. No, just family outing with another couple. And I'm telling you, Paul George getting every shot. There was an electric vibe in the arena there. People were chanting for Paul George. Like,
It was a
nobody
recruiting
cared.
trip.
It basically
was. a recruiting trip.
And I wouldn't have
It
been
was
surprised.
Same thing they do
Doug,
Midnight
it's at
Madness.
the point where,
That's all it was.
If they get Paul George and don't get LeBron, I don't think Lakers fans are going to be crestfallen because of what you keep talking about. LeBron, the drama king. Hey, Paul George wants to be here. He's not going to ruffle feathers in a year. He wants to be here. I think Paul George is coming to LA.
All right, welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to Boston. And the Boston Herald, which was forced to take down a report claiming Tom Brady would hold out to get a bigger contract than Jimmy G after allegations surfaced that their reporter got catfished by a prankster pretending to be Brady's agent. McIntyre, I'm a journalist.
You're the veteran journalist.
You pretend to be a journalist in the blogosphere.
Stop it.
This is mind-blowing to me. I don't know how Ron Borges, who I've known for a long time, I don't know how I do know how he makes this mistake. It's your fault.
It's my fault.
It's the blogosphere's fault. You guys have eliminated journalistic standards.
Wow.
One source.
That's why you got me on here.
Yeah,
Huh?
one
You just want to
source.
kill bloggers.
Yeah, defend yourself.
No, there's no need to do. Listen, first of all, let me say the Boston media market is ruthless. Okay, anything goes there. We know in radio, television, it is every man for themselves basically in Boston. And what happened here is unfortunate to the guy. I got to say, first of all, the
feel sorry
prankster.
for Ron Borges.
Well, let me explain. The prankster is obviously, some kind of lowlife who spends his time texting reporters. Now, obviously, Ron Borges is at fault, Whitlock.
Completely disagree with
you think that's cool? You think it's cool to just prank guys?
He's a
and feed them
young
lies?
kid that saw his number.
He's been
over
doing
Twitter.
this for like multiple weeks, just like acting like he's the agent for Tom Brady. I think it's a little pathetic.
And
but
if
at the
you're
same
dumb
time,
enough to fall for
well,
it.
yes, he is dumb enough. All you got to do is send an email, to Don Yee or actually call the number. The minimum reporting Ron Borges could do. But I do want a big picture, Whitlock. People are getting out of the news-breaking business. There's no value there anymore. Cowherd's been saying this for a while. There's really no value in news. You're a middleman. If you're in news, you're just getting fed stuff from the agents or the teams, put this out there, right? And that's why everybody's moving over to this business, wanting to offer opinions and be interesting. And this is a message to these columnists. Don't try to break news. There's no value in really trying to be first on something like this, Whitlock.
I don't think
when
that's
you know
the
the big picture is, hey, man, just chime in instead of trying to be the guy breaking news.
There's a message here.
Okay.
Be a journalist. Don't just take things that are handed to you.
Well, that's how
You're probably being played. And so then do some double checking. It's like if your mom tells you she loves you, get a second opinion.
Oh, stop
That's
it.
what they tell you in journalism.
We get emails at the Big Lead all the time. Hey, man, we heard this story. And a lot of it is like, who's this guy? Why would you email us this information when you can go to a top flight Adam Schefter or a newsbreaker like Jay Glazer here? They're not going to come to a blog. It's people trying to prank you, and Borges should have seen that.
Well, again, I've known Ron Borges for a while. He's written about me previously. This is a bad look for him. If I'm the Boston Herald, I move on. Ooh. Well, elsewhere in New England, Rob Gronkowski has been mulling his future and reportedly got some advice from The Rock and Sly Stallone, who told the Patriots star to pursue a career in movies. I get it. He's a good-looking guy. He's fun-loving. But acting does take some brains and some common sense, I think. I don't think this is an easy flight. I agree with Gronk should retire.
Should retire now?
Yeah. He's taken enough of a beating. He's a huge target.
At 29 years old.
Yeah, he's made a lot of money. He's proven. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I really think he's already proven that. He's taken a beating. If he retired, I have no problem with it. I don't think that acting in Hollywood is just going to be an easy
A guy who was just unguardable in the second half of the Super Bowl, up and down the field, totally dominating.
2 weeks before, laid out and put in the protocol.
Well, he's a target. He's a big tight end.
He's an easy target in this new violent NFL. I mean, new violent NFL. But in this NFL, he's about the only guy you can really hit without people feeling sorry for him.
So I end up talking to Tony Gonzalez here often, and he tells me how he's taking acting classes, and he's like, Jason, you should come join. It's exciting and fun. And I started thinking about Gronk, and I'm like, okay, Tony Gonzalez has been retired for a while. This is always going to be there. Hollywood's going nowhere. Rob Gronkowski's going to stay the same fun-loving, beer-chugging, skirt-chasing guy that he's always been, okay? You can do that after you retire. He could end up the greatest tight end in NFL history. Why would you retire now, Whitlock?
And I think you made my point. He wouldn't have the discipline to do what Tony Gonzalez is doing in terms of taking acting class and taking the craft seriously.
Great point.
See you next week.